Welcome to This Week in Local, a Localogy podcast featuring lively conversations about the local digital ecosystem, hosted by Localogy analysts Mike Boland and Charles Laughlin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Local. I'm your co-host, Mike Boland, joined by my other co-host, Charles Laughlin. Hey, Charlie, how's it going?
Mike, it's going fantastic. Thank you.
Nice. So tell us what you're looking at.
Well, I've been having an ongoing dialogue with David Shim, who is the founder of Read.ai, and he recently meaning in the last week, announced raising $21 million Series A for his company Read.ai. And we're going to be having David for a fireside chat at the L24 conference in Arlington coming up soon. And so, it's just the reason his raise is interesting is for a number of reasons. One, 21 million, an eye-opening number, just in and of itself. I'm not one who likes to obsess over VC rounds, but this one matters, I think, exceptionally for a few reasons. One, it comes for a space that we cover that we find interesting that we'll be talking about at the conference. Two, it's an entrepreneur who's kind of got a long history in this space. And three, it's coming at a time when funding rounds of this magnitude are less and less common because we've been through this period where, VC kind of money is dried. VC money is essentially dried up. That's actually never been quite true. It's always been more of a perception than a reality, but the reality is it's down considerably from sort of the go-go era maybe a couple of years ago, where, it seemed like money was being thrown at founders, and now it's, are you guys making money? Are you going to make money? Tell us why we should give you money. And no, it's a common answer. So the fact that David, again, who is a seasoned entrepreneur, was able to raise this money, including from one of his previous investors, I don't know if it signals that, VC money is back. I think that would be a trite and facile interpretation, but I think it is a signal that money still can be raised. The other angle here, just real quick, is that Read.ai, it's an AI-focused play, and I think the fact that it raised 21 million, again, not an insignificant round, I think just points to that. I think there's some chatter about whether AI-focused startups will lose some of their luster. Whether there's few too many of them, maybe there's not enough money to fund them all, et cetera. This, I think, is another signal that AI is still popular with investors, at least for now. Mike, I don't know if you have any reactions.
Yeah, it's interesting too. We're seeing startups sort of follow the demand signals and just sort of like plaster the word AI wherever they can in their pitch decks. And Read.ai is not that case.
I think that part is fading a little. I think that's fading a little, where just saying AI gets you money. I think we're past that.
Yeah.
I think,
Right, but everyone adds an AI slide and AI everywhere.
Sure.
We're all about AI.
That's still true. Yeah.
In terms of pitch decks, now, that's not what David's doing. I mentioned that really as a point of contrast because Read.ai predates at least the current wave. AI has been around forever.
That's fair. That's true.
Excitement around generative and conversational AI. They've been, doing this has been a core part of their model from the beginning. Even so, I mean, one proof is in their domain. I mean, it's read.ai. They established that probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
No, they've been around a few years, and I think they were pre-Chat GPT hype for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that aside. It's interesting. I don't know if you got any sense from talking to him about the sort of the reasons and functions for the funding besides, just standard increased runway, support operational needs on an ongoing basis. But
I think it's all the usual things, and there's some new product stuff. Yeah.
So the new product stuff, that's what I wanted to get into. I believe that in addition to the funding, they have announced that they're actually expanding the places from which they are ingesting data, just to be a better, sort of more meaningful insights engine. So their core product, Go
ahead.
I was going to say the core product is, call platform, Zoom, etc., in terms of just like gaining insights and spitting back lots of great, sort of analytics and data and diagnostics. But to do the same thing now for other sort of productivity software apps, starting with email and communications and messaging platforms. So they have Gmail, Outlook, and Slack, which, if you think about it, creates just a richer sort of mosaic of signals from which to gather insights. Not just the meeting that happened from 2 to 2:30, but the chatter around the build up of the meeting, going up to the meeting, people's reactions after the meeting, what they're talking about on Slack. I think that just creates a richer sort of data set for them to do their thing.
Well, as you're implying, and as I have said, I think in posts that I've written, and just generally in looking at what they're doing, is I think, and there's a just constellation of companies that are building around matching AI with where are we meeting, in the sort of modern hybrid workplace. That's video conferencing, it's Slack, it's email, to some degree messaging, and all of these things are data resources. And basically the transcript of a Zoom call is a data resource. A Slack thread is very much a data resource. You can get into HR issues, et cetera, around how much of the stuff do you want to be a data resource if you're an employee. That aside, they are data resources. If these things are pooled and sifted through with AI to infer insights about how the company is operating, should be operating, could be operating, et cetera, it's an incredibly rich resource that a company, and I think I said in the post that I wrote, and David didn't push back on it when I talked to him today. It's kind of the last paragraph of the post. I said, this stuff can be used for a lot of things that, he and I talked about on a podcast and have talked about in other settings where, okay, Bob committed to do this. Now you have evidence that Bob committed to do this. You can hold him accountable. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Or, Bob and 3 other people committed to do the same thing. You can use that to say, let Bob do this. Sally and Jenny, you go do something else. So you're freeing up their time to spend it more productively. And that was kind of where he wanted to emphasize how this could be used, because that's a little more positive. Where I see this going, and it hasn't been said by him, I just want to be fair, is let's say you're sifting through this and you have to make some tough calls, and a lot of companies are making them now, right? Can this data resource be something that informs harder decisions, like
productivity,
which managers are performing, better, performance review, et cetera? It may be part of that. It may also be part of which are the efficient teams, which are the inefficient teams, which are the popular managers, which are the, kind of, in a way, it reminds me of a conversation we had on a podcast recently where we talked about how AI is informing rep management using signals from reviews to, make decisions about, how locations are performing and things like that. This is kind of the same sort of thing. I mean, can this become a data resource for making decisions about who's performing and who's not, which team is worth keeping, which team isn't? That's where it gets tough.
Well, luckily for David, even if that's the case, and that outcome,
that's not what they're selling. In fairness, that's not what they're selling.
Even if that's the case, and that outcome causes consternation, I'll make a controversial statement that it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters in a broader sense, but it matters for his business who the buyer is, right? Who's making that buying decision is not the employee who's going to be, potentially dissected in terms of his or her productivity. It's going to be someone in the C-suite that wants that data. So the person making the decision, it won't be impacted by any implications for this being used in ways that make people uncomfortable, because that.
Well, what I said when I wrote about this was essentially that, which is that even if this isn't being sold on this basis, somebody's going to figure it out. That it can be used on this. That okay, if it's mining all this information, here's what I want to learn from it. If I'm in the C-suite and and the other thing I said is, if these tough calls are going to be made anyway, and we both know that they are, why not use better data to make them?
Oh yeah, sure.
And that's kind of where I went with it.
But the primary intended use case, correct me if I'm wrong, is one resource deployment, like as you said, being able to like deploy resources, people into the jobs that they're best suited for, all that good stuff. But also
let them use their time more effectively. Yeah.
right, but also to feed back into the meeting itself.
Yeah.
Are we doing too many of these? Do they work better on Tuesday morning versus Friday afternoon?
Right.
Like,
Right. Is attendance better on the at these different times?
Is attendance and attention.
Attention is even more important, I think. Yeah.
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 In terms of not just when we have them, how many per week, the duration, should it be 30 minutes, should it be 45? Like just feeding back into the video medium itself and making it
better. That's the stated purpose, which is create more efficiency, organizational efficiency. What I'm saying is I can see it being taken another level.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying it's bad or that it be used that way, because as I just said, why not, if these decisions are going to be made anyway, why not use better data to make them,
Yep.
And that's kind of where I left it. And I'll ask David this on stage. I haven't really pressed him too much on this. I wrote this and he read it, didn't react to it. But we'll see. I'm not saying that's going to be the primary use of this going forward, or even should be the primary use of this going forward. I'm just saying I can see it being used this way.
And by the way, as a side note, anyone building anything that is based so heavily on AI these days needs to have thick skin, and I think he does.
I think you're right about that, because the use cases are just going to go in a lot of directions people can't control. That's just kind of the way it is.
Right, and just the sort of backlash to the technology.
Yeah, exactly. The backlash is where the thick skin comes in. Yeah. Fair enough.
It's potential use for evil, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Agreed on that point. Okay, Mike, I guess we could end it there. You want to read us out?
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for listening. This has been This Week in Local. Stay tuned every week for more episodes. You can find the show on all major podcast networks and find out more at Localogy.com. So please subscribe, like, and comment. Your engagement helps others find us. And if you're interested in being a guest or sponsor, you can email us at podcast@Localogy.com. So I'm Mike Boland with Charles Laughlin. Our producer is Dara Sweat. So thanks for listening and see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Localogy's This Week in Local with Mike Boland and Charles Laughlin. Be sure to subscribe for more.